Welcome, crew, guys, gals, ghouls, and other worldly beings. Let's climb aboard the mothership, secure our tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. I'm your ghostess, TessaTNT, and I am broadcasting from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. It's an honor and a pleasure to have the privilege to hang out with you and fill up the airwaves with hopefully some good ghost stories and stuff. I did want to read a couple articles that I found that I want to read because they look interesting to me, and it's like horror in a sense as far as just the craziness going on in the world today. If you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it or working out, you can look for me under We Are Paradox Media, basically on any platform that you listen to. If there's one that I'm not on that you listen to, let me know at weareparadoxmedia@gmail.com, and I will see about getting us on there. Please, wherever you do find us, whether it be on YouTube or Apple or Spreaker or iHeartRadio or wherever, please leave a like and comments, whether good or bad. And what you'd like to hear. What do you want to hear? All right, so last week we finished with our Stephen King book, which was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to finding another one, but haven't got there yet. But yeah, this week we have a paranormal investigation we're going to be doing in Mancos, Colorado. So super stoked about that. It's been a while since the crew got together, and to be honest, there's like a couple from my crew that will be coming, and then my oldest daughter and her friend, and a person that has been wanting to go investigating with us for the longest time, been very patient, but finally going to be taking him out, and I'm just hoping we get some good activity. And our buddy is going to be recording it, and I will give you his name and the basically the name or link to his show. So his name is Steven, and The Dark Canyon Chronicles is his show, and that's on Spotify. I love the artwork they got going on there. That's pretty awesome. Make sure you follow and like if you get a chance to go check that out. That's pretty cool. I'm going to take a screenshot of that because I'm sure I will be using it at some point in the near future. Yeah, I almost didn't record tonight. It's just so cold. It's like, I know it's not as cold as some other places. Let me see this picture really quick. So it says that it's 20 degrees, feels like 31 degrees, and this is Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius. Oh, now it's 19 degrees, feels like 14. So that was just within the hour. Wow. So tomorrow looks like it's going to be pretty cold, but then it starts to heat up again. So I've been enjoying the nice weather, but at the same time, I know we really need the humidity. So hoping we at least get some rain. We definitely need our fruiting trees and different things like that to get some freezing going. It's kind of part of their process for coming back very hopefully for next year. All right, so getting into these articles. Well, this one is super freaky, and it's AI predicts World War III and reveals what the next global war means for you. This story is by Dorian Maddox and was posted 12 hours ago. Oh man, the stock's been crazy. Artificial intelligence is now being asked to peer into humanity's darkest possibilities, including whether a third world war is on the horizon and how it would reshape daily life. Instead of a single doomsday date, the emerging picture is a world sliding into a permacrisis of great power rivalry, fragile technology, and widening inequality that could feel like a global war long before formal declarations. I see the real value of these AI-driven forecasts not in a cinematic countdown to World War III, but in the way they expose specific weak points in our societies, economies, and personal routines that ordinary people can still shore up. Across security think tanks, military futurists, and consumer-facing AI experiments, a consistent message is emerging. The next global conflict, if it comes, will be as much about data, energy, and social cohesion as about tanks and missiles. That means the war for your future is already touching your job prospects, your savings, your information feeds, and even the reliability of your smart home devices, long before any sirens sound. How is AI actually predicting World War III? When people say AI predicts World War III, they are usually talking about large language models and simulation systems that ingest vast amounts of geopolitical, economic, and military data, then generate plausible scenarios rather than fixed prophecies. In one widely shared clip, an AI-narrated scenario about AI predicts World War III in 2025 frames a world where the resilience of the human spirit is tested beyond measure, stressing that in times of chaos, staying calm and informed is crucial. A reminder that these tools are better at mapping stress points than naming a launch date for global war. Jan. Does that mean January? Another viral video on AI just predicted humanity's darkest years dwells on how critical infrastructure and communication hubs could be hardened inside colossal Faraday cage-like structures that block electromagnetic pulses, underscoring that any future great power clash will target the invisible nervous system of modern life as much as its cities. Faraday. Security specialists are also using AI to stress test the digital environment that would frame any conflict in the future. Analysts at one cyber-focused lab warn that large language models themselves are vulnerable to poisoning of training data, and that non-human identities such as automated agents will increasingly operate in legal and financial systems, raising the risk that hostile actors could corrupt or impersonate them at scale. In practice, that means any AI-assisted forecast of World War III is also a warning about the tools we are building today. The same systems that help model risks can be turned into attack surfaces, and the same automation that promises efficiency can become a liability if it is hijacked in a crisis. The world's risk dashboard is already flashing red. Long before AI scripts a countdown to Armageddon, traditional risk indicators are signaling that the global order is under extreme strain. Hold on a minute. Alright, where was I? Sorry, I got a freaking call. Yeah. Okay. Long before AI scripts a countdown to Armageddon, traditional risk indicators are signaling that the global order is under extreme strain. A leading strategic assessment notes that 2026 begins with the bulletin of the atomic scientist's doomsday clock, set at just 89 seconds to midnight, citing great power, competition, and the unraveling of arms control accords as key reasons the nuclear threshold feels closer. Oh my gosh, another war gaming style analysis of the battles ahead, the world at war in 2026, argues that whatever stability the post-Cold War order once offered effectively collapsed in 2025, leaving a patchwork of regional flashpoints and proxy conflicts that could entangle major states if mismanaged. Preparedness experts frame this moment as the world is entering a new and unique season of history, stressing that whether or not you believe World War III will kick off in 2026, one at least has to acknowledge how unusual it is to see nuclear brinkmanship, cyber escalation, supply chain fragility, and political polarization all intensifying at once. In that context, AI-generated war scenarios are less outliers and more reflections of a consensus that the guardrails are weaker than at any time since the mid-20th century, even if no one can say exactly when or how a global conflict might ignite. The future battlefield, data, drones, and fragile logistics. On the military side, the most credible forecasts of a future world war focus less on troop counts and more on the systems that keep them connected and supplied. A detailed look at the future of the battlefield highlights sustainability, the ways that militaries supply and support their deployed forces, and connectivity, the networks that link sensors, decision makers, and weapons, as decisive factors in any major conflict. In practice, that means fuel convoys, satellite links, undersea cables, and cloud infrastructure would be prime targets, and that the side that can keep its logistics and data flows intact under attack will have a huge advantage. Energy analysts add another layer to this picture by arguing that growing energy access is positive for economic activity, but also locks societies into higher baseline demand that becomes a vulnerability if supplies are disrupted by war or sanctions. If a future World War III involved blockades or cyber attacks on power grids, the shock would ripple far beyond battlefields into factories, hospitals, and homes that now depend on constant electricity and data. For civilians, that translates into a simple but uncomfortable truth. Your ability to work, communicate, and even heat your apartment in a crisis is now tied to the same complex energy and network systems that military planners expect to be contested in any major war. AI, inequality, and the politics of a global crisis. Even without open war, AI is already reshaping power and politics in ways that could determine how societies weather a global conflict. At a recent high-level discussion, analyst Ian Brimmer asked, "Are we going to see a rapid expansion of inequality between haves and have-nots?" Warning that unchecked AI rollout could concentrate health and influence in a narrow set of actors while leaving the broader public exposed to a job disruption and information manipulation that the world is not prepared for. In a wartime setting, that imbalance could translate into some communities having access to advanced warning systems, secure communications, and financial cushions, while others face layoffs, disinformation, and predatory scams. Consumer-oriented AI forecasts capture the same tension in more lighthearted form. One popular AI predicts 2026 video imagines a near future where your smart vacuum talks back in your favorite TV host's voice and offers tongue-in-cheek advice on how to survive living like a slob. A reminder that the same Generative tools that can script war games are also being embedded in everyday gadgets and entertainment. I see a serious point beneath the humor. As AI saturates homes, workplaces, and public places, the line between civilian and military technology blurs. In any large-scale conflict, those ubiquitous systems could be repurposed for surveillance, propaganda, or cyber operations, and the people least equipped to understand or resist that shift are often the ones with the fewest resources to begin with. What all this means for your daily life and how to prepare. For individuals, the most practical takeaway from AI-driven World War III scenarios is not to build a bunker, but to treat this new and unique season of history as a prompt to harden your own life against cascading shocks. Preparedness specialists argue that whether or not you believe World War III will kick off in 2026, our minds have to adjust to the idea that multiple crises can hit at once. From cyber outages to supply disruptions, and that basic steps like maintaining a modest stock of essentials, keeping paper backups of key documents, and knowing alternative routes to reach family can dramatically improve resilience. I would add that digital hygiene now belongs in the same category as bottled water and first aid kits. Using strong authentication, updating devices, and learning to spot phishing attempts reduces the odds that you become collateral damage in a cyber conflict. Well, that was interesting. Alright, and this next one is titled Believe Your Eyes, and the picture on this is showing ice and everybody with their cell phones. Everybody's got a cell phone now, so everybody's filming this stuff going on. This story is by Charlie Wartzel, posted 9 hours ago. Chances are you've seen Richard Song Tatari's photo. Taken Wednesday in Minneapolis, it shows an unidentifiable protester face down on the ground. 2 Border Patrol agents are on top of him, holding him there, while a third unloads pepper spray into his face from just inches away. The photo ran on the front page of the Minnesota Star Tribune on Friday and already feels like a defining image of the long ice incursion in Minneapolis. A powerful illustration of how the agency has acted in broad daylight with excessive force and impunity. This is just one example of federal agents terrorizing people in the city. There's also the photo of a 5-year-old boy being detained outside his home. There's the video of an agent chasing a teenager through the snow on a residential street as the boy yells, "I'm legal," in Spanish. And yesterday, the world saw footage of Alex Preddy, a nurse who worked in the ICU of a Veterans Affairs hospital, as agents pepper sprayed him, knocked him down, and appeared to remove a legally permitted gun from his person and fired at least 10 bullets into his prone body. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino has claimed that the agents were the real victims and suggested that they were acting in self-defense. Just like with the Good case, right? They're just lying in our faces. They think we're stupid. We're not stupid. There are still unknowns in this case, as there are in many of the chaotic moments that have come out of ICE's recent surge in Minneapolis. But there are basic facts. Preddy was helping a woman when agents swarmed him. He did not have a gun in his hand. In the past 18 days, agents have used excessive force against numerous people in Minneapolis and killed 2 of them. First, Renee Good, now Preddy. We know about this violence. We can see it ourselves from numerous angles, largely because of video and photographic evidence taken by everyday citizens, many of whom have purposefully set out to make sure that they are recording what is happening for the world to see. Song Tatari credits these volunteers, many of whom are trying to protect their neighbors, for his non-famous shot. On Wednesday, Song Tatari had been following Bovino, but realized that was a wild goose chase, and was alerted by a group to an escalating situation in South Minneapolis. He drove over and got the photo. When I spoke with him on Friday, he told me that protest observers have set up signal group chats which help track agents' movements across the city. He uses the chats to make sure he can be in the right place at the right time to document what is happening. If it is still not clear why this matters, compare the documented reality with the Trump administration's blatant propaganda. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement yesterday that Preddy wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Similarly, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller called Preddy a would-be assassin who tried to murder federal law enforcement. Video footage directly contradicts these claims. It shows Preddy holding a phone in his hand, pointing it at an agent after another shoved a woman. He was shot again and again while on the ground. The full evidence around Preddy's death has not yet been released. If he was indeed filming agents before he was shot, there is likely first-person footage on his phone. But Preddy's last seconds were captured from multiple angles in sickening footage widely distributed on social media and by news organizations. It is able to be seen and dissected online precisely because of the observers who were there to document it. Who watched as federal agents piled atop Preddy and who did not drop their phones when the gunshots rang out. The work of observers and photographers in Minneapolis right now is as dangerous as it is crucial, because ICE's presence in Minneapolis is provoking not only physical conflict, but an informational conflict. Agents themselves are pulling out their phones during altercations with protesters. According to the Washington Post, the White House has urged ICE to produce videos for social media of immigrant arrests and confrontations to portray its push for mass deportation as critical to protecting the American way of life. Last week, President Trump posted on Truth Social that ICE must start talking about the people they're arresting in Minnesota, writing, "Show the numbers, names, and faces of the violent criminals and show them now." When the footage doesn't suit the administration, it seems to have no issue doctoring images to suit its alternate reality, as it did on Thursday. Agents had arrested an attorney who was protesting at a local church, and the White House posted a photo of this woman that was altered, presumably by AI, to make it look like she was crying. A dark irony of our current age is that there is more video and photographic evidence than ever before, and yet propagandists can coerce or convince others to not believe what they can see with their own eyes. If the truth is ever to win out over propaganda, it can only do so in the face of overwhelming evidence, the collection of which has become ever more treacherous in the second year of Trump's second presidency. But the news and footage of Preddy's death seems to have broken through the usual informational chaos, at least to some extent. On Reddit, Instagram, and Facebook pages, the videos of Preddy's last moments appear to have galvanized people who don't normally engage or post about politics. And it is thanks to the bystander videos of Preddy's killing that people are trying to hold the administration accountable. This morning, the CNN host, Dana Bash, referenced the footage in an interview with Bovino, asking him why Preddy was shot after being disarmed. "We're not going to adjudicate that here on TV in one freeze frame," Bovino replied. "It's not a freeze frame," Bash said. we're showing a video of one of your agents taking the gun away, and that happened before Freddie was shot. Minneapolis residents are risking their lives to document what is happening to their city. In Freddie's case, doing so cost him everything. We should believe what we can see with our own eyes. One can only imagine what Miller and the administration might have said about the shooting and Freddie if there weren't an abundance of footage. Thankfully, because of the observers, the world can see for itself. And I do agree it's hard to believe a lot of stuff that is out there, but it's freaking obvious. These are videos from citizens. Some would call them civilians, that are just trying to protect their neighborhoods, their neighbors. It's the thing you should do. Wouldn't you want someone, your neighbor, to protect you? But like I posted yesterday, who's next? Who's going to be killed next? These aren't illegals. These are American citizens. These aren't ethnic people. These are white people. And like one lady was saying, if it can happen to the white people that are actual citizens or civilians here, we're very afraid. I think it was a Somali or someone like that, but the fear is palpable. Here's a video depicting some of the craziness going on. I believe this is the poor little 5-year-old boy. He's so cute, and it's just so sad that they're doing this to children and families and just innocent people.
Superintendent, grateful for your time tonight. I want to play a little bit more of what an ICE official said in Minnesota today and get your perspective. Let's listen.
Arias fled from law enforcement on foot, abandoning his child in the middle of winter in a vehicle. One of our officers stayed behind with that child while the officers apprehended his father. After conducting the arrest, my officers stayed with the child. My officers did everything they could to reunite him with his family. Tragically, when we approached the door of his residence, the people inside refused to take him in and open the door. Let me say it again. They saw the young boy, and they refused to open the door and take him back.
Superintendent Stenvik, you arrived on the scene after Liam and his dad had been taken. You've obviously spoken to a lot of people about this since Tuesday afternoon. Is that your understanding of what happened?
You know, I think it's really important that we do not normalize groups of 8 or more masked and armed agents roaming our neighborhood and terrorizing our children. That was the scene. So when I arrived to the scene, I saw the still running car in the driveway, and community members that I know, school officials that I know, crying out. I asked, "Where's the child? I'm here for the child. Where's the child?" And they said they took him, and everyone was in disbelief. I immediately went to the side yard where the another adult who lives in the home was, and talked with that person, and they told me that they talked to the agents and begged them to let them take Liam. Other people were shouting, "The school officials are here. The school officials are here. They can take the child. Don't take the child." So it does confuse me a bit when there are statements about making every attempt to not separate Liam from the rest of his family. That just doesn't make sense to me.
I'm going to guess, and I think it's a pretty safe guess, that one of the things you try to teach children in good times and troubling times like this is to tell the truth. Always tell the truth. The Vice President of the United States framed the choice that the ICE agents had here as either taking the child with them or letting him freeze to death. To the best of your knowledge, is that anywhere close to the truth?
Here in Minnesota, we're used to the cold weather, and we never let our children freeze to death. That would never, ever happen.
what are your conversations like with parents and with children as this plays out? Are you having different conversations now about how to deal with ICE, how to deal with authorities when this happened? You mentioned sometimes they're not clearly identified. But are your conversations with parents and with children different in the last week to 10 days than they were, say, if we were having this conversation a year ago, where occasionally something like this would happen, but not on this scale?
I'll tell you, 1 year ago, we began working with a pro bono law firm who came in and offered informational sessions for our families on Know Your Rights. And so we were under the impression that someone would potentially come to school with a signed judicial warrant and present that, and then we were trained on how to handle that and what to do lawfully and legally. That's not at all what we're experiencing right now. ICE they're in groups and in dark, blacked out cars, wearing masks all over our street corners. They're following our buses. They're circling our schools. They're driving back and forth in front of our schools. They're out back of our high school during dismissal time. Every week just keeps getting worse. And life for us, there's no semblance of normalcy anymore. So for us as school officials, routines for children is one of the most important things that they need, a sense of normalcy. And it's been challenging. We're working our best to provide, regular school as much as we can. But the children are aware because they see abductions and these apprehensions happening on their way to school, on their way home from school. They see it from their windows. Just the other day, they saw at our high school during passing time, they saw ICE vehicles come onto our school property and come back towards our loading dock. So we're having to talk to children who should never have to be so afraid about, getting home safely to school and ensuring them that when they are in our schools, they're safe.
Even college kids are afraid to go to school because of all this. It's just crazy to me. I'm hoping you guys were able to hear me last night because the voice meter box output usually lets my voice and the music and everything go through there, but it's just on the microphone array thing, so I'm hoping it came through on the episode last night. If not, that would be sad. So, there's another video I'm looking to pull up here in just 1 second. Just basically talking about the rights that they're trying to take from us, that they've been working on taking from us for quite some time now. Okay, so this is from Democracy Now! And the title is ICE versus People of Minnesota. Community resists Trump's militarized crackdown. And this is a special report, I believe is what the title says.
We begin today's show in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as the Pentagon's placed 1,500 soldiers from the 11th Airborne Division in Alaska to be on standby to possibly be deployed to Minnesota just days after President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act as protests continue over ICE's immigration crackdown. The Trump administration says it's opened criminal investigations into Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who've sharply criticized ICE's tactics. In a statement, Walz said, quote, "Weaponizing the justice system and threatening political opponents is a dangerous authoritarian tactic," unquote. This comes after the FBI reportedly opened a civil rights probe into the ICE agent who killed Renee Good, but then pivoted to focus instead on whether Good and her widow assaulted the agent. Meanwhile, on Friday, a federal judge ordered ICE agents to stop arresting or pepper spraying peaceful demonstrators in Minneapolis. On Sunday, demonstrators disrupted Sunday services at a church in St. Paul to protest one of the church's pastors, David Easterwood, who they say is a top ICE official in the Twin Cities.
David Easterwood is a pastor here. He is also the director of the field office for ICE in St. Paul. So someone who claims to worship God, teaching people in this church about God, is out there overseeing ICE agents.
The Department of Justice says it's opened an investigation into the protesters. In another development, the Trump administration is being accused of denying legal counsel to many arrested during the immigration sweeps. Multiple attorneys say they've been blocked from seeing clients held at the Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis. Meanwhile, ICE agents continue to carry out raids in St. Paul. Armed, masked agents battered down the door of a home and without a warrant arrested a man led out of home in his underwear in sub-freezing weather. It turned out the man was a naturalized U.S. citizen born in Laos. For more, we go to Minneapolis for a report from Democracy Now!'s John Hamilton on the ground there this weekend, speaking with people about how communities are organizing against the ICE raids.
James Schwesnadol is a volunteer with the Community Rapid Response Group on the lookout for federal agents in his Minneapolis neighborhood.
Just driving around my neighborhood, kind of picking an area to just keep an eye on, looking out for any ICE or Customs and Border Patrol.
Hundreds of legal observers like James now patrol the streets of the Twin Cities each day on the lookout for masked federal agents in unmarked vehicles.
And then I'm on a signal chat with people in my neighborhood here, and then there's people all over the neighborhood who are following that signal chat, and if they see a message that ICE is, passing through their block or getting out of their cars on their block or the next block over, they're ready to run out and, videotape, do constitutional observing, blow whistles, let neighbors know that ICE is on the block and it's not safe to come outside.
Activities like these are protected by the First Amendment, but that hasn't stopped federal agents from deploying violence against people who track their movements.
Now, get out of the way. Move your car now. You're obstructing. Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
Patty O'Keefe is a 36-year-old South Minneapolis resident who learned that lesson firsthand.
I live about 8 blocks away from where Renee Good was murdered, and last Sunday, January 11th, I was out patrolling and observing ICE with my friend Brandon when we were violently arrested and detained. When we got on the scene, the ICE agents were getting back into their 2 vehicles. There were a number of people who had shown up by that point, and so they decided to leave the area. So they turned down a side street, and we proceeded to follow them on that side street and continue blowing our whistles and honking our horns. 30, 40 seconds into doing that, they stopped their car, got out of the car, surrounded my vehicle, screamed at us to stop following them, told us we were obstructing them, even though there was no one in front of their cars. We weren't at an active ICE raid even. They could have just kept going forward. And then one of the agents proceeded to spray pepper spray into the front windshield vent of my vehicle. So we got pepper spray in the car, which was, hurt our eyes and our mouths and our throats. And they got back in the vehicles, kept driving, and when we didn't turn around, they stopped the car again, got out.
You can go forward! We are not obstructing! We are not obstructing! You can go forward! You can go forward! We're not obstructing! We are not obstructing! We know our rights!
They broke our 2 front windows and dragged us out, arrested us, and brought us to detention.
Yes, sir. Get the out of the car. Yes, sir. I'm coming out. You got any weapons on you? Put your hand behind your back. Sir, I got passport. Shut up. Shut the up. Sir, you are under arrest for repeated operation.
I was in the vehicle with 3 ICE agents, and as soon as they all got into the vehicle and shut the doors, they just immediately started taunting me, making fun of me. One of them took a photo of me and showed it to the other agents, and, you know, they were just laughing, you know, insinuated that I was ugly. And then one of the agents, the one who had sprayed the pepper spray into my car, proceeded to say, "You guys got to stop obstructing us. That's why that lesbian bitch is dead," referring to Renee Good.
Do not break windows.
Other legal observers have experienced physical abuse. A disabled U.S. Marine Corps veteran named Sky suffered bruised arms, hands, and legs after being violently pulled from the driver's seat by federal agents.
Get out of the car. Put the car in park. Get out of the car. Put the car in park. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
TBN.
You know I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I don't care what you are.
Assholes.
Others have had their license plates and faces scanned by ICE, with agents even following them to their homes.
ICE is at my house.
Yeah.
Judy and Noah Levy were at their home in St. Paul on January 6th when they got an alert.
Someone from my book club sent a message on the group chat that, hey, I think ICE is staging in the parking lot of a grocery store that closed down several blocks away. So we drove over, and there were about 8 SUVs lined up kind of tail to tail. Some had plates, some didn't.
They stopped us almost right away.
They stopped traffic. The first car that was behind them was about to take a right-hand turn. They surrounded him. There were like 5 agents that we could see from, several car lengths back where we were. We could hear that they were giving him a really hard time.
No, he's alone.
And then the agents that weren't occupied, the employees that weren't occupied with him, started coming back, and car by car, they took photographs through the windshield.
They're saying, get out of the car, roll down your window.
And we didn't do either thing. We just said, hey, we don't want to talk to you.
I do not want to talk to you. You're in our neighborhood.
You're in our neighborhood.
You're in our neighborhood. I have every right to be here.
I'm driving.
You are in our neighborhood.
I'm driving.
You are in our
After the dude took our photographs through the windshield and checked the plate, he came to my passenger side window, just kind of knocked on it and said, hello, Judith, how are you today? What can I do for you, Judith?
Do not threaten me. Do not threaten me.
As I told you, I go by Judy. Nobody calls me Judith unless they've just run my plates. Of course, the next day, they killed someone who was doing just what we were doing. They killed Renee Good. And they've escalated. The violence has escalated, the harassment, the abuse, the beatings, the kidnappings. Every day, they're wreaking havoc. They're speeding through the neighborhood. They're causing accidents. They're disappearing people before the police can even get there.
And what we did was legal.
What we did was legal.
It was legal to follow them. It's legal to film them. And they were trying to chill that. And I will have to say that was incredibly intimidating.
That intimidation is felt most in Minneapolis's diverse neighborhoods, like the Lake Street corridor, where ICE's crackdown has led many immigrant-run businesses to shut their doors.
My name is Miguel Hernandez, and I'm the owner of Lito's Burritos here on Lake and Bryant in Minneapolis, which is a Mexican-American Chicano restaurant. If there's not a significant change in what's happening here in Minneapolis, like right now, we will lose a massive amount of the community, restaurants, people aren't going to work. You can't keep open hours. You can't pay bills if you're not open, but you're risking the safety of staff. You're risking the safety of your family if you continue to work, and those conditions can be stressful. It's really tough to be making tacos and burritos and wondering if someone's going to barge in and just start asking for people's, statuses. It's not a sane way to live. And over, I'm really proud of the community for standing up and fighting back any way they can. And all they're looking for, when I say fight back, is accountability. Accountability, due process, and respect of human rights.
My name is Yudu. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a community organizer and immigrant rights activist with the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee. Folks at all hours of the day, no matter who you are, just being on the lookout in the community. We see, especially in streets that are cultural corridors that have a lot of immigrant-owned businesses, but just people of color who own their businesses. We see people standing on street corners, looking after each other. If there's any suspicious activity or vehicles, reporting it to each other and seeing if there's any license plates that we can bring back that we know are confirmed ICE vehicles, and if there are ICE agents who show up, to immediately alert other rapid response networks, to blow their whistles, to alert the community that ICE is in the area, and ultimately just chase them out and make it known to the community that ICE is here, not only to protect the community, but also to let ICE know that they're not welcome here.
As ICE agents openly use racial profiling to determine who they stop, some of Minnesota's indigenous citizens have been detained, sometimes violently. Chase Iron Eyes is a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe, an attorney and executive director of the Sacred Defense Fund.
I've said nobody is more American than the American Indian. Yet here ICE is executing immigration enforcement violence against the original Americans, the true Americans. And when they're capturing us and violating our rights and illegally profiling us, where are they going to deport us? Where could they possibly deport us? So it is a legal impossibility for ICE to be doing what they're doing to Native American people right now.
Get out. Just get out. Just get out, Beto. Just get out, Beto. Please, they're mean.
There's a Native woman with her nephew, another Native American, driving in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and they're pulled over and profiled. And probably because they look like us, we look like them. The people that ICE is trying to target, one demographic, are those people who are indigenous to the entire Western Hemisphere.
We're citizens.
Okay, then show your ID.
Get your ID.
Let me show you what the
We're native. What are you doing?
They pull this family over, and the auntie, the aunt, is doing her best to maintain decorum under those extremely stressful circumstances.
Just get the ID. Get the ID.
She's complying with everything that the ICE officers are stating, and they're asking for her nephew's driver's license. He's driving. He's 20 years old. I have a son about the same age. He never takes his driver's license or his wallet anywhere, so he's having a hard time finding his license. At the same time, ICE is using a facial recognition technology, and they're scanning his face, and they begin to beat him, physically attack him and assault him. And this woman, I don't remember her name, but she's looking in to the camera, and she is calling out for help.
Let him scan your face. Why'd you hit him? No! Stop! What are you doing? No! Why are you hitting my nephew? Okay.
Hey, down there.
Stop! Okay, back out! Beto! No!
Do not move. Do not move. Do not move, okay?
The violent arm of the state, which is ICE at this time, is staring her down, and they begin to beat her nephew, and she begins to cry. And by the end of it, they scanned his face and found out that he is a United States citizen.
Really?
I got a call from a councilman from the Oglala Sioux tribe. And he says, brother, we're in town. Can we meet? So I go to meet with this certain councilman, and he's not alone. He has 4 other council members that are with him, and they want their tribal members back. They want their tribal members returned. They want the body released. That's habeas corpus. They want these tribal members who are also American citizens to be released. And we proceeded to the detention center because they wanted to gain access to it. And ICE wasn't really, they knew nothing of these men. But we have eyewitnesses that can attest to the fact that they were apprehended by some uniformed personnel. Now, it is absolutely possible that ICE did not apprehend them, but somebody did. So we're continuing the search, and we're making progress. What I can tell you right now is that ICE couldn't identify them. I shouldn't say they don't have them because we don't know their names.
Lakota Nation.
On Saturday, a steady stream of mourners visited the intersection of Portland Avenue and East 34th Street, where Renee Nicole Good was fatally shot 3 times by ICE agent Jonathan Ross. They came with flowers and signs of protest.
My name is LK. I'm a teacher from the Twin Cities. Last time I was here was last Wednesday night, the day that Renee Nicole Good was murdered. This is unprecedented. I mean, I have kids emailing me about what's going on and the presence in their neighborhoods and at their front doors, and the very things that keep community going are trying to be torn down, like schools, because kids aren't able to go. They can't go and they can't learn and they can't create, and everybody's in jeopardy. It's not, one type of person. It's literally everybody.
For Democracy Now!, I'm John Hamilton in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Special thanks to John Hamilton. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video.
Right. Well, it's pretty sad what's going on, and there's more. Believe it or not, there's tons to go along with that. But on that note, we are going to go to our first music break, where we have the lovely and talented Miss Mia Savage with Your Skeleton, Our New Reality, Let Me Be Your Home, and The Miriam Crypto. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
That I could
Welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. So far, I've been sharing some videos with you that I found interesting about, all the BSery we've been going through over here in the U.S. and I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff like this happening all over the world. This is a video that my little brother Aaron sent to me, and it's covering 9/11 and other things as such in other places like London, etc. So here we go. The Corbett Report.
When we remember the events of 9/11, we are often invited to reflect on how the attack came out of the clear blue sky. Until the terror began to unfold in real time on everyone's television screen, it was just another beautiful blue sky day, a perfect day for aviation.
It is 8 a.m. in Salisbury, North Carolina, 7 a.m. in Chicago, 5 a.m. in Calaveras County, California, where the news is being made on this Tuesday, September 11th.
From CNN. Anyway, that's all coming up. 8:01. Let's get to the top news stories of the morning. For that, we turn to Ann Curry.
Because now we have a camera. Katie Matinell, thank you so much this morning. Good morning, everybody, again.
But isn't in America and in politics, isn't spinning? What is spinning, Charlie?
Well, spinning is getting out your point of view, trying to put your interpretation on something.
So do you think there is a lot of spinning done in politics? And
America pageant, but this year things are different. Contestants will be quizzed on current events, U.S. history, and government. 10 of the 51 contestants got a preview. Among the questions, naming the current vice president and knowing what happened December 7th, 1941. 2 contestants didn't know Dick Cheney was the vice president, and 4 missed the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Miles and miles of sunshine. Miles Davis. We're going to put Miles out there today. Nice as it can be across the Northeast. Rough seas still from the chop from that hurricane, but other than that, it's kind of quiet around the country. We like quiet. It's quiet. It's too quiet.
But that was merely the public's impression of the events from ground level. Little did we know at the time, 9/11 was not a normal day of blue sky aviation. On the contrary, it was one of the busiest days in the history of American aviation. A dense forest of live fly exercises, drills, simulations, fake radar injects, and utter confusion. And that was before the attacks even began. This is the story of 9/11 that you didn't watch unfold on your TV that fateful day in 2001. This is the story of the 9/11 War Games. Part 1.
Perfect timing.
War Games. It only stands to reason that government employees, armed forces, and first responders spend a considerable amount of time every year training to respond to crises. A major catastrophic event may only happen once in a lifetime, but if and when it does occur, the appropriate personnel need to know how to respond. Not all military exercises and government drills are the same, however. These training events can range all the way from computer simulations and war games, where no personnel are deployed and no physical resources are committed, to live field exercises, where real people use real equipment and even real munitions to practice responding to real-world emergencies or simulate real warfare. And as these drills move from abstract models to real-life exercises, the line between reality and simulation can become blurry. What does it mean, then, when a simulation of an emergency takes place at the exact same place and time as the real emergency is happening in real life?
Today we were running an exercise for a company, bearing in mind I'm now in the private sector, and we sat everybody down in the city, 1,000 people involved in the whole organisation, but the crisis team, and the most peculiar thing was we based our scenario on the simultaneous attacks on the Underground and mainline station. So we had to suddenly switch an exercise from fictional to real.
Just to get this right, you were actually working today on an exercise that envisioned virtually this scenario?
Almost precisely.
In the hours after the July 7th, 2005 bombings in London,
Peter Power gave a series of interviews to various outlets confirming that he had been running an exercise at the exact time of the attack. That exercise envisioned bombs going off at Liverpool Street, King's Cross, and Russell Square at exactly the same time as real bombs were going off at those very locations.
At 9:30 this morning, we were actually running an exercise for over a company of 1,000 people in London based on simultaneous bombs going off precisely at the railway stations that happened this morning. So I still have the hairs on the back of my neck standing upright.
To get this quite straight, you were running an exercise to see how you would cope with this, and it happened while you were running the exercise?
Precisely.
What are we to make of this? Is this just a remarkable coincidence? Proof of the keen insight of advisors like Peter Power in correctly predicting the locations and times of likely terror attacks? Or something altogether different? And, if this was set up by some intelligence agency or someone with advanced knowledge of the real attack, what would be the point? Why would they bother to schedule a drill rehearsing the event at the same time as the event itself? Just as there are various kinds of drills, war games, and exercises, so too are there different ways that such simulations could be used to help facilitate an actual event. A drill could be used to distract security services and hinder responses, for example, thus helping an attack to succeed. Or the exercise could act as an alibi in case the plot is discovered before it can take place. Or, in an even more chilling scenario, a war game or training event could be used to recruit patsies who, believing they're only taking part in an exercise, unwittingly move people or equipment into place for a real attack.
Yes, I am the king. Numero uno, baby.
Find something?
Yeah, I wound up in some government think tank's upload directory. Here's your scenarios, ladies.
These look like counterterrorism scenarios, war games developed for the Defense Department.
What's scenario 12D?
Airline terrorism? That doesn't make sense. Your father was murdered over a war game?
Download it.
Incredibly, the plot of the pilot episode of The Lone Gunman, a spin-off of the popular X-Files television program, aired in March 2001, depicted a scenario in which a group of government insiders piggybacked on a military war game involving a hijacked airplane to remote control a civilian passenger jet into the World Trade Center.
What the hell are you doing? Why can't you stay out of this? Leave me buried.
What is scenario 12D? We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
If some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The men who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart-bombed.
But as outlandish as this idea seems to those not immersed in military history or strategy, the idea of a war game going live is not limited to the world of fiction. In fact, it is a real and openly acknowledged secret among military planners that such exercises can be used as an operational cover for a real attack. Reflecting on lessons learned from his tenure as Secretary of Defense under Ronald Reagan, Caspar Weinberger observed that the difference between a realistic exercise or maneuver and what could be preparations for an attack, that line is sometimes quite blurred. And Weinberger should know, it was under his watch that a fictional wargame scenario brought the world to the brink of a very real global thermonuclear war. In 1983, at the height of Cold War tensions over the Reagan administration's moves to increase the U.S. nuclear arsenal and his national security directive calling for the ability to win a nuclear war, NATO decided to simulate a first-strike nuclear attack on the Soviet Union in an exercise dubbed Able Archer 83. As recently declassified documents show, the exercise was unprecedented in its scale and scope, even involving a very real radio-silent airlift of 19,000 U.S. troops to Europe. So realistic was the buildup of forces and the preparations for nuclear strikes during these war games that, as we now know from these documents kept hidden from the public for 30 years, Able Archer 83 very nearly caused a real nuclear exchange. But these concerns about war games going live did not end with the breakup of the Soviet Union. On September 10, 2001, the Russian Air Force began a week-long training exercise over the North Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic Oceans. The exercise simulated a Russian bombing attack in response to NATO aggression. On September 9, 2001, NORAD announced they would be deploying additional fighter aircraft to forward operating locations in Alaska and northern Canada to monitor the exercise and ensure that our air sovereignty is maintained. The Russians called off their war game when the 9/11 attacks began to unfold. Military planners know that simulations and war games can be used as cover for real attacks. But what about 9/11? Were there any exercises, simulations, or drills that had a bearing on what was happening on that fateful day? Part 2. Preparations. In the wake of 9/11, the Bush administration's mantra became that no one could have imagined such an attack before it took place.
I don't think anybody could have predicted that these people would take an airplane and slam it into the World Trade Center, take another one and slam it into the Pentagon, that they would try to use an airplane as a missile, a hijacked airplane as a missile.
First, I must say, I knew of no intelligence during the 6+ months leading up to September 11th that indicated terrorists would hijack commercial airliners, use them as missiles to fly into the Pentagon or the World Trade Center towers.
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings on such a massive scale.
But, like everything else the Bush administration told the public about 9/11, this too was a lie. Not only had government officials envisioned flying airplanes into buildings or using an airplane as a missile, but multiple agencies trained for just such an event prior to 9/11. In fact, as General Richard Myers, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 2001 to 2005, went on to tell the 9/11 Commission, this precise scenario of a hijacked jet being flown into a high-value target was drilled by NORAD not once or twice, but 5 separate times in the run-up to September 11th. On November 6, 1999, they simulated an event in which terrorists hijacked a passenger jet flying out of JFK with the intention of crashing it into the United Nations building in New York. On June 5, 2000, they simulated 2 hijackings, one in which the terrorists intended to fly the plane into the Statue of Liberty, and the other in which the intended target was the White House. An October 16, 2000 NORAD drill saw a hijacker once again targeting the UN building, as did a nearly identical exercise on October 23rd of that year. One of NORAD's pre-9/11 hijack drills even saw the World Trade Center itself become the intended target. Other exercises involved not just hijacked jets as weapons, but tested NORAD's response to simultaneous hijackings being used in a coordinated attack on American airspace.
Well, obviously, it would be hard to imagine posturing for the exact scenario, but isn't it a fact, sir, that prior to September 11, 2001, NORAD had already in the works plans to simulate in an exercise a simultaneous hijacking of 2 planes in the United States?
Colonel Scott, do you have any data on that? I'm not aware of that, sir. I was not present at the time.
That was Operation Amalgam Virgo.
Amalgam Virgo is an annual NORAD field training exercise, meaning that real aircraft are deployed and actual personnel are used to simulate real-life situations. The planning document for Amalgam Virgo 01, which took place in June 2001, featured a picture of Osama bin Laden surrounded by airplanes. Amalgam Virgo 02, which was already in the planning stages on 9/11 and actually took place in June 2002, involved a simulated hijacking of a real Delta Airlines 757 by military personnel acting as civilian passengers, and ran through multiple scenarios for stopping the plane from reaching its target, including a shoot-down. But as uncanny as these similarities are to real-life events, declassified documents from the 9/11 Commission archive show that many other types of hijack scenarios were practiced in the years before September 11th. These documents prove that many of the lies told about the confused response to the 9/11 attacks are just that, lies. We have been told, for instance, that NORAD wasn't set up to deal with the domestic hijacking threat because the Joint Command was solely focused on outward threats.
It's the way that we were directed to posture, looking outward. Those were the orders that NORAD had and has had for ever since the end of the Soviet Union, when we had, at that time, I think it was 26 alert sites around the United States, and we'd gone down to 7.
But time after time between 1999 and 2001, NORAD simulated so-called inside-inside events, where domestic airliners bound for domestic destinations were hijacked en route. General Myers simply lied when he said that NORAD's defenses were only directed toward outside threats. As these documents show, NORAD was actively engaged in modeling domestic terror threats, not only domestic civilian airliner hijackings, but even one scenario, dubbed Fertile Rice, in which Osama bin Laden directed an attack on Washington using a drone aircraft laden with explosives. And these were not the only pre-9/11 training events that bore a striking resemblance to the actual attacks. The specific scenario of a plane crashing into the Pentagon was drilled not just once or twice, but at least 3 separate times in the year prior to September 11th. In October 2000, a Pentagon mass casualty exercise, or MASCAL, envisioned a scenario in which a passenger jet hit the Pentagon. Army medics, the Arlington Fire Department, and other emergency responders participated in the drill. In May 2001, another Pentagon mass casualty exercise tested responses to a passenger jet crashing into the Pentagon's courtyard. This time, the Tri-Service De Lorenzo Healthcare Clinic and the Air Force Flight Medicine Clinic participated in the training. Lieutenant Colonel John Felizio, Deputy Commander for Administration of the De Lorenzo TRICARE Health Clinic, later remarked, "You know, it was kind of eerie. The scenario we had for these MASCALs was very similar to what actually happened. Our scenario for both MASCALs was a plane flying into the Pentagon courtyard." Then, in August 2001, just 1 month before 9/11, yet another Pentagon mass casualty exercise practiced building evacuation. As General Lance Lord, commander of Air Force Space Command, later noted, purely a coincidence, the scenario for that exercise included a plane hitting the building. Purely a coincidence. Time after time after time after time in the months leading up to the attacks, military personnel and first responders were trained to respond to the very events that the public is asked to believe actually took place on the day of 9/11. Some of these training exercises even involved real aircraft being pretend hijacked by real military personnel acting as civilian passengers. Purely a coincidence. As we can see, the idea that no one could have predicted the attacks of September 11th is not just a lie, but an absurd lie. In fact, the sheer number of times those very scenarios were exercised before they took place by itself raises the question of what these wargame planners knew about what was set to take place that day. But, as remarkable as all of these drills and exercises are, more remarkable still are the similarities between the events of 9/11 and the wargames that we now know were taking place that very morning. Part 3. Training Day. Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, dawns temperate and nearly cloudless in the eastern United States. A perfect day for aviation. Meanwhile, all around the country, military personnel, first responders, and government officials prepare for one of the busiest days of simulated terror in history. In New York City, preparations continue for Operation Tripod, an exercise run by the New York City Office of Emergency Management involving hundreds of personnel from FEMA and other disaster response agencies. The exercise simulates a bioterrorist attack on New York, and on the morning of September 11th, equipment is already in place at Pier 92, just 4 miles northwest of the Twin Towers, to treat the victims of this pretend attack.
On September 12th, Pier 92 was going to have a drill. It had hundreds of people here, from FEMA, from the federal government, from the state emergency management office, and they were getting ready for a drill for biochemical attack. So that was going to be the place they were going to have the drill. The equipment was already there.
And on the 97th floor of the South Tower of the World Trade Center, a team of technology consultants who have flown in from California for the occasion are running an emergency drill in the offices of Fiduciary Trust. Meanwhile, in Washington, members of the 12th Aviation Battalion, in charge of aviation support for the White House, U.S. government officials, Department of Defense, Department of the Army, and other government agencies, are 2 hours away from their base, participating in their annual weapons training. 12 miles south of the Pentagon, Fort Belvoir begins a garrison control exercise, drilling the base on its response to a simulated terrorist attack. Firefighters at Fort Myer, just 1.5 miles from the Pentagon, are sitting down for an aircraft crash refresher class. Matthew Rosenberg, an Army medic at the DeLorenzo TRICARE Health Clinic, sits down in Corridor 8 of the Pentagon to study a new medical emergency disaster plan based on the unlikely scenario of an airplane crashing into the place. And in Chantilly, Virginia, just 4 miles from the runway of Dulles Airport, the military and CIA personnel who staff the National Reconnaissance Office are beginning an exercise in which a plane crashes into their building. Members of the Joint Special Operations Command, the U.S. military's top counterterrorism unit, are in Hungary preparing for Jackal Cave, a highly classified joint readiness exercise. Fighter pilots deployed to monitor the Russian Air Force's training exercise in the Arctic are readying themselves for a day of maneuvers in Alaska and northern Canada. And at NORAD's Combat Operations Center at the Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado, military commanders are preparing for one of the busiest days of war games and exercises in the history of the United States.
Michael Rupert is standing by at his office in Sherman Oaks, California. Michael, thanks for this. What is the reason for the failure of U.S. military jets to show up in a timely fashion on 9/11?
Well, the simple fact is, Barry, that they didn't know where to go. The reason that they didn't know where to go was because a number of conflicting and overlapping war game exercises were taking place, one of which, Northern Vigilance, had pulled a significant number of North American fighter aircraft into Canada and Western Alaska and Northern Alaska in a mock Cold War hijack exercise. There was another drill, Vigilant Guardian, which was a hijack exercise, a command post exercise, but it involved the insertion of false radar blips onto radar screens in the Northeast Air Defense Sector. In addition, we have a confirmation, thanks to General Richard Myers, who was acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who told Richard Clark, as reported in Clark's book, that there was another exercise, Vigilant Warrior, which was, in fact, according to a NORAD source, a live-fly hijack drill being conducted at the same time. With only 8 available fighter aircraft, and they have to be dispatched in pairs, they were dealing with as many as 22 possible hijacks on the day of 9/11, and they couldn't separate the war game exercises from the actual hijacks.
Yes, on the morning of September 11th, 2001, the stage was perfectly set for an unprecedented day of simulated terror throughout the northeastern United States. And then, it all happened for real. Part 4. This is not an exercise.
Hi, Boston Center, Team U. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York, and we need you guys we need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up there to help us out.
Is this real world or exercise?
No, this is not an exercise manifest.
Confusion.
Okay, now we do. Yes, this is what I got. See here, put that in, put a booth. Possible news at 7:37 just hit the World Trade Center. This is a real world. And we're trying to confirm this. Okay, continue taking the fighters down to the New York City area, JFK area as best as you can. Make sure that the FAA clears your route all the way through. Just do what we got to do, okay? Just press with us. It looks like somebody... It looks like this guy could have hit the World Trade Center.
Chaos.
Do we want to think about scrambling aircraft?
Oh, God, I don't know.
That's a decision somebody's going to have to make probably in the next 10 minutes.
Everybody just left the room.
Paralysis. There are many ways to describe the FAA, DoD, and NORAD response to the events of 9/11. But given that, according to the official 9/11 conspiracy theory, not a single fighter jet was able to intercept a single hijacked airliner between the first hijacking report at 8:20 a.m. and Flight 93's downing nearly 2 hours later at 10:03 a.m., the claim that the response to these events was actually enhanced by the war games and exercises taking place that morning is downright absurd.
The question was, we had 4 war games going on September 11th, and the question that I tried to pose before the secretary had to go to lunch was whether or not the activities of the 4 war games going on September 11th actually impaired our ability to respond to the attacks.
The answer to the question is no, did not impair our response. In fact, General Eberhard, who was then the commander of North American Aerospace Defense Command, as he testified in front of the 9/11 Commission, I believe he told them that it enhanced our ability to respond, given that NORAD didn't have the overall responsibility for responding to the attacks today. That was an FAA responsibility.
A question about our training posture on the day of 9/11. On page 5 of our staff statement, the FAA says at 8:38 in the morning, "Hi, Boston Center, TMU, we have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York, and we need you guys we need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up there. Help us out." NIAD says, "Is this real world or an exercise?" My question is, you were postured for an exercise against the former Soviet Union. Did that help or hurt? Did that help in terms of were more people prepared? Did you have more people ready? Were more fighters fueled with more fuel? Or did this hurt in terms of people thinking, no, there's no possibility that this is real world. We're engaged in an exercise and delay things? Or did it have both impacts?
Sir, my belief is that it helped because of the manning, because of the focus, because the crews, they have to be airborne in 15 minutes, and that morning, because of the exercise, they were airborne in 6 or 8 minutes. And so I believe that focus helped. The situation that you're referring to, I think at most cost us 30 seconds.
These lies have been carefully crafted over years and presented in such densely packed sound bites that it is difficult to deconstruct them all. General Meyer's assertion that it was not NORAD but the FAA that had the responsibility to respond to the attacks that morning is one such lie. In reality, NORAD is specifically tasked with dealing with such events itself, not waiting passively for FAA orders. NORAD's own regulations for dealing with hijacked jets specifically state that FAA authorization for interceptor operations is not used for intercept and airborne surveillance of hijacked aircraft within the continental United States. And General Eberhardt's assertion that the confusion over whether the events that were unfolding were real-world events or merely exercises cost us 30 seconds is belied by the actual audio recordings of the FAA and NORAD response that morning. Time and time again throughout the entire morning, air traffic controllers and military operators are forced to clarify that the events being reported are not part of an exercise.
Hi, Boston Center, Team U. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York, and we need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up there to help us out.
Is this real world or exercise?
No, this is not an exercise, not a test.
What? What was that? Not real world. Real world hijack. Cool. Real?
1443. Look for it. Right there. Okay. Mode 3. 1443. Last known. No, this is real world. Okay, run hijack.
I've never seen so much real world stuff happen during an exercise.
I think we put the exercise on the hold. What do you think?
This persistent confusion over the reality of what was happening that day is hardly surprising. Although the exact details are still shrouded under a cloud of official secrecy, on the morning of 9/11, NORAD was in the middle of a week-long war game that, coincidentally, included simulated hijackings of passenger jets. Vigilant Guardian is an annual command post exercise involving all levels of NORAD command. Vigilant Guardian 01 was a week-long war game described as a simulated air war, and, just 2 days before 9/11, it had involved a simulated terrorist hijacking of a civilian passenger jet by terrorists intending to blow the plane up with explosives over New York City. Even more remarkably, on the morning of September 11th, they were planning to simulate another passenger jet hijacking just 1 hour after the attacks began to unfold. In 2006, Vanity Fair reporter Michael Bronner was the first journalist given access to the tapes of NORAD operations that morning. In his subsequent article on the subject, 9/11 Live, the NORAD tapes, Bronner talked to Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Nasipany, the mission crew commander on the ops floor at the Northeast Air Defense Sector on the morning of 9/11. When they told me there was a hijack, my first reaction was, somebody started the exercise early, Nasipany later told me. The day's exercise was designed to run a range of scenarios, including a traditional simulated hijack in which politically motivated perpetrators commandeer an aircraft, land on a Cuba-like island, and seek asylum. I actually said out loud, "The hijack's not supposed to be for another hour," Nasipany recalled. As a command post exercise, Vigilant Guardian was not conducted with real airplanes, but what's known as Sim over Live, where simulated aircraft are injected into NORAD's air traffic system. Although the official narrative holds that the simulated injects were cleared from NORAD's radars as soon as they appeared, thus causing no confusion, the actual NORAD tapes tell a different story. At 9:04 a.m., directly after Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower, 2 officers monitoring the events at NORAD's Northeast Air Defense Sector, NEADS, can be heard to refer to the events as potential exercise inputs.
Is this explosion part of that we're looking at now on TV? Boston is now grounding.
It is possible second hijack also at United Airlines
Center, where they're working at right now.
2 planes? He was in Whiskey 105. Get the fuck out.
I think this is a damn input.
At 9:09 a.m., one NEADS technician complains about the exercises taking place and the confusion with real-world events.
Langley's on battle.
Fuck.
09.
What?
On battle station 09.
Happy to see you. Langley. California. I know. I hope they cancel the exercise because this is ridiculous.
And at 9:15 a.m., an off-duty NEADS technician calls in to ask about the day's events and the ongoing exercise.
You guys watching the news?
Yeah, they got around in the battle cab right now. Yeah.
I'm watching for about 10 minutes. I wonder if they could spend the exercise?
Not at this time, no. But I think they're going to. Things look pretty horrific out there, so.
Remarkably, at 9:30 a.m., a full hour and 10 minutes into the attacks, simulated aircraft were still being injected into the radar screens at NEADS. One frustrated staff member directing the response on the NEADS operation floor had to order his coworkers to turn their SIM switches off, stopping the fake simulations from confusing the radar operators.
You know what? Get rid of this goddamn sim. Turn the sim switches off. Get rid of that crap.
Even worse, at the same time as these false inputs were distracting the radar operators, real military aircraft that were taking part in live fly exercises that day were further complicating the response to the attacks.
Boston Center team, you've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
The military aircraft that are in the air right now.
Yes, sir.
We're wondering if we should tell them to return to base if they're just on training missions, or what you guys...
No, they're actually on the active air, per the DO out there. I launched early.
Right. Everybody's up, you want them up?
Yes, we did send the ones home in 105 that were on the training mission. They are sent home. The Panthers are out there for Modus.
Right, I understand that. I'm talking about, I think there's somebody training up in the Falcon Axe area right now.
Falcon, stand by. Let me,
just in general, anybody who's training.
So, anybody in training, send them home. Training missions in Falcon, send them home. Yeah, we're going to send go ahead, send them home.
Okay, bye.
Even more incredibly, false radar injects continued to show up on radar screens at NORAD's Operations Center in Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado at 10:12 a.m., a full 9 minutes after the attacks had ended.
Northeast weapons.
Hello, this is Captain Taylor calling from Cheyenne Mountain Test Control.
Yes.
What we need you to do right now is to terminate all exercise inputs coming into Cheyenne Mountain.
Yes, can you call 6180 extension for that, please?
6180?
You bet, he'll give you that.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
In the face of this overwhelming documentary evidence that the exercises taking place that morning were a persistent source of distraction that significantly complicated response efforts, the retort of the 9/11 Commission and its proponents that these false radar blips were a minor issue that, at most, cost us 30 seconds, rings exceedingly hollow. But that official story becomes even more implausible when it is learned that air traffic controllers and military personnel were not responding to 4 clearly reported hijacked aircraft, as the public now imagines it, but as many as 29 potential hijackings.
We were in the process of launching aircraft all over the country during that time frame. We had multiple aircraft called hijacked all over the country.
And in fact, as General Arnold said, we fought many phantoms that day. Now, we got many aircraft calls inbound that morning that turned out to be phantoms.
These false reports included United Airlines Flight 177, which was inexplicably reported as hijacked at 9:25 a.m., despite still being on the ground at Boston's Logan International Airport. Delta 1989, a 767 flying from Boston to Los Angeles that was repeatedly identified as suspicious on the morning of 9/11 and ordered to land at a secure, remote area of Cleveland Hopkins Airport, where the pilot signaled all clear to the SWAT team outside the plane with blood running down his face. Continental Airlines Flight 321, which had inexplicably squawked the hijack code from the plane's transponder 3 times before being safely brought down in Peoria. KAL-85, en route from Seoul, South Korea to New York, which inexplicably sent 5 separate and ongoing indicators of a hijacking situation before being intercepted by NORAD fighters over Alaska and directed to land at Whitehorse in northern Canada or be shot down. And literally dozens of other suspicious aircraft, inexplicable hijack indicators, false reports of planes that never existed, and other bizarre incidents, some of which have still never been explained to the public to this day. But the most baffling of all of these reports involved American Airlines Flight 11, the Boeing 767 en route from Boston to Los Angeles that, according to the official government conspiracy theory, was hijacked by Mohammed Atta and flown into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Incredibly, air traffic controllers and military fighter jets spent much of the crucial time in the midst of the 9/11 attacks dealing with a completely false report that Flight 11 had not crashed into the World Trade Center at all, but was instead still airborne and heading towards Washington.
Scoggins Military, Boston Center. Just had a report that American 11 is still in the air and it's on its way heading towards Washington.
American 11 is still in the air? On its way towards Washington?
There was another aircraft that hit the tower. That's the latest report we have.
Okay.
I'm going to try to confirm an ID for you, but I would assume he's somewhere over either New Jersey or somewhere further south.
Okay, so American 11 isn't the hijack at all then, right?
No, he is a hijack.
American 11 is a hijack.
Yeah.
And he's going into Washington?
Could be a third aircraft.
This completely false report, phoned in by FAA military operations specialist Colin Scoggins, further confused the already overwhelmed NEADS technicians. In response, NEADS mission crew commander Kevin Nasipany scrambled some of the only fighters in the entire defense sector to chase after this phantom flight.
Okay, American Airlines is still airborne. 11, the first guy, he's heading towards Washington. Okay, I think we need to scramble Langley right now, and I'm gonna take the fighters from Otis and try to chase this guy down if I can find him.
So confusing was this series of events that even years later at the 9/11 Commission hearings, both commissioners and military commanders struggled to even communicate about the problem itself, let alone determine how such a false report persisted for so long.
Commissioner Gorelick?
A couple of follow-up questions. First, for General Arnold. You testified before us before that the jets were scrambled in response to Flight 93, not American 11. And when you were asked about,
I was wrong.
Yeah, but the question about that is, and I want to be fair to you and give you an opportunity to respond. You said that the reason that you were wrong is that you hadn't had an opportunity to listen to the tapes, or the tapes were not accessible. But I mean, we have. I'm just holding 4 of them, different headquarters and CONAR logs that are clearly reflect that the scrambling was done in response to this phantom American 11, which didn't exist anymore. And it was your responsibility, as I recall, to do the after-action report or to lead it or to be in part responsible for it. Did you not look at the logs in that process?
Well, you referred to an after-action report that we didn't do. I mean, I don't recall doing an after-action report.
Why did no one mention the false report received from FAA that Flight 11 was heading south during your initial appearance before the 9/11 Commission back in May of last year? And why was there no report to us that, contrary to the statements made at the time, that there had been no notification to NORAD that Flight 77 was a hijack?
Well, the first part of your question, Mr. Commissioner, first of all, I'd like to say that a lot of the information that you have found out in your study of the 911 things that happened on that day helped us reconstruct what was going on. If you're talking about the American 11 in particular, the call of the American 11, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
The American 11 that was called after it impacted, is that what you're referring to?
No. I'm talking about the fact that there was miscommunication, that Flight 11 was still heading south instead of having impacted.
That's what I'm referring to. That's correct.
General, is it not a fact that the failure to call our attention to the miscommunication and the notion of a phantom Flight 11 continuing from New York City south, in fact, skewed the whole reporting of 9/11. It skewed the official Air Force report, which is contained in a book called Air War Over America, which does not contain any information about the fact that you were following or thinking of a continuation of Flight 11, and that you had not received notification that Flight 77 had been hijacked?
Well, as I recall, first of all, I didn't know the call signs of the airplanes when these things happened. When the call came that American 11 was possible hijacked aircraft, that aircraft just led me to come to the conclusion that there were other aircraft in the system that were a threat to the United States.
In their testimony and in other public statements, NORAD officials also stated that the Langley fighters were scrambled to respond to the notifications about American 77 and or United 93. These statements were incorrect as well. The report of American 11 heading south as the cause of the Langley scramble is reflected not just in taped conversations at NEADS, but in taped conversations in FAA centers, on chat logs compiled at NEADS, Continental Region Headquarters and NORAD, and in other records. Yet, this response to a phantom aircraft, American 11, is not recounted in a single public timeline or statement issued by FAA or DoD. Instead, since 9/11, the scramble of the Langley fighters has been described as a response to the reported hijacking of American 77 or United 93 or some combination of the two. This inaccurate account created the appearance that the Langley scramble was a logical response to an actual hijacked aircraft.
False radar inputs, military aircraft participating in exercises in the middle of a crisis, civilian aircraft squawking false hijack reports, fighter jets chasing phantom planes. Which of these reports were merely the fog of war, so often referred to by promoters of the official 9/11 story, and which were part of the exercises themselves? Were there field exercises of hijackings taking place that morning that were then mistaken for the real thing? What part did these war games and exercises play in hampering the response of the many military officers who had spent their whole careers training to protect American airspace? Did the war games help the perpetrators of 9/11 in their attack? The answers to these questions, like so many other questions about the events of September 11th, remain shrouded under a veil of official government secrecy. Part 5. Beyond Coincidence. Purely a coincidence. According to the official story of 9/11 itself, we are told that simulated hijackings were taking place at the same time as real-life hijackings. That an airplane into building drill was occurring at the same time as airplanes were flying into buildings. That false radar blips and fake hijack reports were competing for the military's attention with real-world radar blips and hijack reports. And throughout it all, technicians, operators, military personnel, and air traffic controllers were constantly seeking reassurance that what they were seeing was not part of an exercise. Purely a coincidence, or part of a premeditated plan? And if this unprecedented tangle of exercises, drills, and simulations was part of a premeditated plan, what was that plan? What would be the point of simulating the attacks, even as the attacks themselves were taking place?
For me, the pivotal evidence, absolutely demonstrating direct government complicity in and management of the attack.
And this is the 9/11 omission hearings. Speaking as Michael Rupert. This is September 9th, 2004.
Was found in a number of undisputed yet virtually unaddressed war games that I have shown were being conducted, coordinated, and or controlled by Vice President Dick Cheney or his immediate staff on the morning of September the 11th. The names of those war games are known to include Vigilant Guardian, Vigilant Warrior, Northern Guardian, Northern Vigilance, and Tripod 2. There is a possibility that Northern Guardian is a duplicate name, but the remaining exercises are indisputably separate events with different objectives. All have been reported by major press organizations relying on undisputed quotes from participating military and FAA personnel. They have also been confirmed by NORAD press releases. All, except for Northern Vigilance and Tripod 2, had to do with hijacked airliners inside the continental United States, specifically within the Northeast Air Defense Sector or NEADS, where all 4 9/11 hijackings occurred. According to a clear record, some of these exercises involved commercial airline hijackings, In some cases, false blips or injects were deliberately inserted onto FAA and military radar screens, and they were present during at least the first attacks. Excuse me. This effectively paralyzed fighter response, because with only 8 fighters available in the region, there were as many as 22 possible hijackings taking place. Other exercises, specifically Northern Vigilance, had pulled significant fighter resources away from the northeast U.S. just before 9/11 into northern Canada and Alaska. In addition, a close reading of key news stories published in the spring of 2004 revealed for the first time that some of these drills were live fly exercises, where actual aircraft, likely flown by remote control, were simulating the behavior of hijacked airliners in real life. All of this as the real attacks began. The fact that these exercises had never been systematically and thoroughly explored in the mainstream press or publicly by Congress, or at least publicly in any detail whatsoever by the so-called independent 9/11 Commission, made me think that they might be the holy grail of 9/11. And that's exactly what they turned out to be. Only one war game exercise, Vigilant Guardian, was mentioned in a footnote to the Kane Commission report, and that it was deliberately mislabeled as an exercise intended to intercept Russian bombers instead of a hijack exercise in the northeast sector. Even then, a deliberate lie was told to the American people as NORAD Commander General Ralph Eberhart testified to the Commission that the exercise actually expedited U.S. Air Force response during the attacks. Before the Commission's final hearing, I undertook a direct investigation in an attempt to learn more details about each of the exercises, and specifically who was controlling them or had planned them to take place on September the 11th. For it's abundantly clear, based upon the record of statements made by the U.S. Air Force and FAA personnel, that the games had effectively paralyzed fighter response during the attacks.
The exercises taking place on 9/11 could only be to the benefit of the attackers. No stand-down order would have kept any dedicated fighter pilot worth his salt grounded during the only attack on his country's airspace in his lifetime. But if those fighter pilots and their commanders had no idea what was real and what was fake, what was an actual threat and what was just a phantom blip, then their response could be effectively contained. And it was. The utter failure of the air response that morning is proof of that. But if the simulations and war games on the morning of 9/11 were part of a premeditated plan on the part of the attackers, then the obvious question is, who were the attackers? Are we to believe that the dastardly Al-Qaeda masterminds not only perpetrated the simultaneous hijacking of 4 civilian airliners, turning off the plane's transponders and putting them through a series of maneuvers that even advanced pilots could not replicate to hit their targets with pinpoint accuracy, but also penetrated the command structure of the U.S. military and NORAD itself to direct the planning and scheduling of simultaneous war games, mirroring their own plot to confuse the air response to the attacks? Because if that sounds like outlandish comic book fantasy, then there is only one other possible conclusion: that members of the National Command Authority, the U.S. military, and NORAD, in a position to plan and schedule such exercises, were the attackers themselves.
What the hell are you doing? Why can't you stay out of this? Leave me buried.
What is Scenario 12D?
And what you're listening to now is the pilot episode of The Lone Gunman. This was March 4th, 2001.
We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
If some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The men who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart-bombed.
But that's just fiction. And the fact that it all happened in real life a few months later is just another pure coincidence. The truth of what happened that morning would be remarkably easy to come to if those involved in the planning and execution of the day's training events were to open the records and allow independent examination of the precise situations that were being trained that day. How those scenarios were arrived at, who planned them, who was in charge of them, what radar injects and false reports and live fly simulations were taking place, how these exercise inputs were relayed to technicians and air traffic controllers, and what steps were taken at what times to allow those events to continue even as the attacks they were supposed to be simulating were actually happening in real life. But we shouldn't expect the guilty parties to indict themselves, and so it is no surprise at all that the official government investigation into 9/11 studiously avoided facing any of these issues head-on.
I believe Commissioner
Ask
Gorelick.
about the war games that were planned for 9/11.
Commissioner Gorelick.
Could you please be quiet? We have only a few minutes with General Myers, and I'd like to ask a question. General Myers, I'm sorry.
I would ask, please, people in the audience to be quiet if you want to stay here.
So what does it mean when a simulation of a catastrophic and catalyzing event takes place at the exact same place and time as that event is happening in real life? This is one of the many crucial questions of 9/11 that have been swept under the rug over the past 17 years. But it is not a rhetorical question. It is a very real question with a very real answer. And until that question is answered, we will never find justice for the victims of 9/11.
That was written, directed, and narrated by James Corbett. You can find this video and many other mind-blowing, epic videos and articles, etc. on CorbettReport.com. That's CORBETT report REPORT.com. All right. Well, on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our second music break. On this break, we once again have the lovely and talented Miss Mia Savage. And I will see you back here right after this music break.
lie. But we'll kill those good guys and try to silence that everyone and let the demons run amok. But it doesn't matter, because it's just a lie, and we can change it anytime we want. It's all we need, a choice. No record, no work, no job, no savings or money. Just a choice right now between fear and love. Choice right now between fear and love.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. So, we've been delving into some not so fun stuff, which is our world today. But I figured for the last little bit of the show, I would say third hour, but we have less than 30 minutes, we'd get into what we generally would, which is something paranormal, supernatural. So this UFO case involved children and triggered a military response. So in 1966, hundreds of students and teachers at Westall High School witnessed an object descend and hover near their campus. The sighting occurred in broad daylight and lasted several minutes. Shortly after, authorities arrived and discussion of the event was discouraged. For decades, the incident was barely mentioned, raising questions about why it was quietly buried. So let's get on into it. And this is from Scary Mysteries.
Welcome to Scary Mysteries. I'm Andrew Fitzgerald, and if you followed our channel at all, then you know that today's topic is one of my favorites. And we've dug deep to find some stories here you've yet to hear about, and will find fascinating, no doubt. It's one of my favorite topics because when I was young, my mother and I were driving home one night when we spotted a UFO in the sky, and ever since then, I've been a believer. It was high above and it looked like a star, but it was making fast, acute turns in a way that seemed out of this world. I'm a believer, but whether it's actually aliens from another planet, another dimension perhaps we're seeing into, or something of our world that we don't understand, I don't know. But they are out there. If you guys have any UFO stories of your own, let us know in the comments, because I love hearing these, and the more we share, the more information gets out there for everyone to learn from. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Hook us up, please, with a subscribe tap if you haven't done that yet. And now, here are 5 alien encounters from students around the world. Number 5, Ariel Elementary School in Zimbabwe. You're probably asking, can children be reliable eyewitnesses? Especially if we're talking about UFOs. Well, research does suggest that kids can actually be more truthful than adult witnesses. However, for this upcoming story, you'd be the one to need to decide if there's any truth to their retelling. 20 miles southeast of Harare, which is the capital of Zimbabwe, lies a small agricultural town called Rua. And within that is a school named the Ariel School. As expensive as it is, most of the pupils at that school in the past were from wealthy white families residing in Harare. So sometime between September 14th and 15th of 1994, there had been reports going on around about multiple UFO sightings throughout southern Africa. Witnesses said that they saw numerous bright fireballs passing through the night sky. At that time, a local radio station opened up their lines to accommodate callers reporting about what they had seen. Most of them said they believed what they saw was a comet or a meteor, but a lot of them were convinced that what they saw could really be an unidentified flying object. On the 16th of that month, kids at Ariel were outside in the field for their mid-morning break. The teachers and school personnel were inside having a meeting. At around 10 a.m., their break had ended and the children returned to class. Once inside, they barraged their teachers about the weird thing that they saw on the field. The same thing happened when they returned to their homes, where they pestered their parents about their strange encounter at school. Many of the adults quickly dismissed them as random ramblings concocted by their wildly imaginative minds. However, some parents did go to school the next day to ask what really happened and were told about the commotion. Concerned, they reported the incident, which then caught the attention of a local UFO researcher named Cynthia Hind. Hind then decided to visit the school to interview the children, and she heard the kids telling her the same story of one or more silver-colored spacecrafts descending from the sky and landing on the field near the school. They also said that one or more strange-looking creatures dressed in all black came down and approached them. The otherworldly beings then telepathically communicated with them. Things then got even more disturbing when Hind went on to ask them to draw what they saw, which they actually obliged to. And much to everyone's surprise, all 62 children who claimed sightings were able to come up with more or less a consistent visual representation of what they had said. More experts then went down to the little town of Rua to talk with the kids. They also found out that aliens gave them a telepathic message about our planet's deteriorating condition. The Rua sightings still remain unexplained, but regardless of the years that have passed by, several of the young witnesses that have now become adults themselves have maintained that what they saw was real. Number 4. Crestview Elementary School. For an incident to capture the attention of not only the public, but the authorities as well, that tells you something that this is no ordinary occurrence. This fiasco began back on April 6, 1967. A kid who goes by the name of Jonathan was in the schoolyard of Crestview Elementary School in North Dade County, Miami, Florida. It was way past recess time and most of the pupils were already inside, and Jonathan's teacher, Mr. Robert Apfel, went out to get the straggler back to class. It was at this moment that Mr. Apfel noticed the child staring blankly into the sky. Jonathan urged his teacher to look up at what he was watching, and despite his hesitance, he followed the cue. What they saw together was beyond what they could comprehend. Right before their eyes was a metallic craft flying overhead, and it wasn't the same as what they would usually see, which is why both the teacher and the student were dumbfounded. Not sure of what they had witnessed, Mr. Apfel and Jonathan decided to not pay attention to it, and neither of them expected to see such a strange sight again, but the next day's event proved them wrong. The following day, on April 7th, Jonathan and the rest of his classmates were out in the same field. Before their teacher could even holler them back into class, 3 strange objects reportedly hovered in the sky above them. One of them looked the same as the craft that Jonathan and Apfel had seen the previous day, and the 2 others supposedly looked like cigars. Just like what happened on the first day, all 3 unidentified.
A twisted new season of the traitors.
I don't know. I was just thinking, like, things that are called cigar shape don't look like cigars, and things that are called Tic Tac shape really don't look like Tic Tacs.
Objects then vanished rapidly from their sight. As described by some of the children, the spaceships zoomed straight into what seemed like an unseen portal or gateway that swallowed them whole. It was estimated that there were about 200 people, including faculty members, who witnessed this entire incident, and as such, this raised the attention of the nearby community, especially several military bases and airports in North Dade County. Children recalled the presence of multiple military personnel coming to school to interview the witnesses. And interestingly, they were made to believe that the mysterious objects they saw were just 3 low-hovering helicopters who were just happening to pass by.
Yes.
They were then told that it was impossible that they could be UFOs, and that all 200 of them had to have been mistaken at what they seen. Even into their adulthood, Jonathan and the children of Crestview Elementary School in North Dade County strongly believed what they saw was out of this world. However, the strange insistence by authorities would make everyone assume that perhaps they had something that they had been hiding from the public. Number 3, Hillside College.
Hillsdale.
According to science, a physical trip from our planet to another star system closest to us would be a multi-generational journey, meaning we would have to be in a deep sleep for eons before we could set foot onto another habitable planet. That's just how unfathomably wide space actually is. So, even with that scientific improbability of extraterrestrial beings visiting Earth, many are still convinced that they can do so. It was the evening of March 21st, 1966, when the girls of McIntyre residence at Hillside College in Dexter, Michigan, encountered something that would forever change their lives. That night, the students saw huge circular flashing lights hovering over the school's botanical garden. The few who saw it first shrieked in utter surprise, but soon almost every inhabitant in the dorm went to their windows to check what the fuss was about. And there,
arthritis causes pain in your joints.
So, I don't know. I've had several UFO sightings, and my kids have too, so I always believe the kiddos.
saw an intense silver-white light radiating, and it was headed directly towards them. In their retelling, some girls said that they saw the light starting to flash red, then white. They quickly realized that it wasn't really flashing, but the heat had apparently been increasing in intensity. It was so alarming that this actually prompted them to call the civil defense. Things escalated quickly from there. Hillsdale County's civil defense director advised the witnesses to observe the object and call again if it didn't disappear, and strangely enough, it didn't. This urged the director to call the police to check on the fiasco that was happening at the school. Close to 100 people observed the phenomenon with their very own eyes, and word spread quickly like wildfire, and that was even without social media. Soon enough, hundreds of people came circling around the streets of Hillsdale College, hoping for just a chance to get a glimpse of the mysterious lights. The police, meanwhile, were busy going after leads phoned to them about flying saucers hovering around the area. The commotion eventually caught the attention of the U.S. Air Force and brought them onto the scene. After some investigating, officers said that what the girls saw was actually marsh gas, which was produced by the swamp in the botanical garden.
Swamp gas.
So, according to officials, the lights were just actually flares of gases.
And the picture they're showing here looks like the craft that Mia and I saw out at Silver Springs Ranch. And I don't know why they're always at that angle. It's like a 45-degree angle. Pretty interesting.
That were burning. The decomposition of rotting vegetation from the botanical garden produced methane, or marsh gas, which was then trapped by ice during the winter season. When spring comes around, the gas then tends to leak through, and when ignited, it usually forms a ball of fire suspended in the air. But school officials refuted the claims, saying that the garden was not that significantly large enough to produce such immense gas leaks. Some said it could be young male college students playing pranks on the girls, but this claim couldn't be substantiated as well. So, what exactly were those orbs seen outside the Hillsdale College dorm? To this day, witnesses are sure that it wasn't swamp gas. However, the officials say that it was. So, that's just it, and now it remains a mystery.
Yeah. Is
Number
there a swamp
2,
nearby?
Westall
There's not
High
here.
School. The sheer number of remarkable stories, disturbing tales, and inexplicable occurrences related to UFOs should be enough to convince anyone that these can't be just a hoax or a hallucination. However, some sectors in our society insist that these phenomena are nothing but the figment of our imaginations.
Mm-hmm.
In a Netflix documentary series called Top Secret UFO Projects, one episode discussed the baffling story of what has come to be known as the Westall Incident. It all happened in Australia during a mid-morning break on April 6, 1966. Students and teachers from Westall High School, now called Westall Secondary College, were out from their rooms enjoying recess time when all of a sudden they reported seeing a weird-looking flying object. The witnesses, who reportedly numbered around 200, described the thing as gray or silvery green in color, and it was shaped like a saucer about twice the size of a family car. The object made a descent, flew above the high school building, and then disappeared behind a lump of trees nearby. While they were still reeling from that occurrence, the bizarre object then reappeared around 20 minutes later. From the trees, it climbed at such high speeds unknown to them. The aircraft eventually disappeared towards the northwest side of the sky. But the strange occurrence didn't stop there, as some eyewitnesses said that they saw yet another 5 unidentified aircrafts of different designs pursuing the gray flying saucer.
What?
This controversy consequently caught the attention of everyone, which then prompted media outlets to visit the area. Interestingly, out of all the newspaper, radio, and television networks hounding the place, only but a small part of the story came out to the public. It was a standard cover-up, so to speak. None of the interviews were broadcast, and the photographs taken were kept secret as well. And to make it worse, some of the students said that after the incident, American secret agents went to all their families telling them never to speak about what had happened ever again. In what seemed to be an attempt to quell the confusion, authorities explained that the flying saucer seen in April of 1966 could really be nothing but a runaway balloon from the Hubble project. A Hubble, or a high-altitude balloon, are balloons used to monitor radiation levels after British nuclear tests were done at Maralinga in Australia. A representative from the project said that Hubble balloons have a silver-white appearance, which coincided with the statements from the eyewitnesses. More than 50 years have already passed, but the majority of the Westall students who bore witness to the anomaly stood by their belief and the truth of their words that what they saw was not simply a balloon. Number 1. Broadhaven Primary School.
Number 1.
Pembrokeshire, a county in the southwest of Wales of the UK, is known for its stunning tourist spots. Whether you're there for some breathtaking views of nature, the alluring historic locations, or the great unknown, the Welsh countryside is packed with surprises for all sorts of visitors. In fact, any travel vloggers and bloggers alike would never dare fail to mention this one eerie incident that helped further cement Pembrokeshire's global fame. It was the summer of 1977. A group of school children were out in the yard of Broadhaven Primary School when out of the blue they saw something strange hovering above a nearby field. The students, who numbered at around 15, said that they saw a narrow, cigar-shaped flying vessel that had a dome on it. Another remarkable aspect they could remember of the aerial craft was the light above it, which flashed from yellow to orange and then to red. Right in the middle, they saw a humanoid figure dressed in a silver suit, and it appeared as if the entity was piloting the entire thing. The flying vessel reportedly hung in the air for several seconds while the children stared both in disbelief and fascination, and just as quickly as it appeared, the UFO then vanished in a flash right before their very eyes. The kids couldn't contain the excitement, thrill, and bewilderment they felt. They rushed inside their rooms to tell their classmates and teachers about what they had seen. And of course, the adults, annoyed by their seemingly disruptive behavior, admonished them and went on to dismiss their tale as nothing short of fantastical imaginings. Now alarmed by the mass hysteria that it seemed to have created, the school headmaster summoned the eyewitnesses into his office. Determined to find flaws in their so-called fairy tale, the principal called the children in one by one to give their personal account. and for better measure, the official asked them to draw what they had seen. Hearing their strikingly similar statements and seeing the drawings that were very much alike, the school officials still were no less convinced that what these children said could actually be true. But word further got out, and in a few months the Ministry of Defense announced that they had received several reports of strange flying objects encountered around West Wales. For instance, motorists recounted seeing the same oddly shaped spacecraft zooming past their roofs, and the radio and television inside their vehicles jammed in the process. A manager of a hotel called Havenford Hotel, located in nearby Little Haven, said that she was also confronted with two faceless humanoid creatures that came down from a cigar-shaped flying vessel. More similar reports of encounters followed soon after. Even then, though, nothing conclusive was drawn out from all these controversies. The Broadhaven UFO, as the phenomenon is now being called, persists to be a mystery, and this in turn becomes part of the county's allure. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Remember to go check out some more of our content, and if you want an exclusive library of the creepiest videos we have, and want to chat with us more, go check us out at patreon.com/scarymysteries.
Yep. So that was a pretty awesome video. And that last picture, try to go and find that picture under Scary Mysteries. But yeah, they're all like lined up with their pictures in hand, showing what they saw. Do you, or have you, ever had your own UFO sighting? I had so many paranormal and supernatural experiences growing up. I never saw a UFO until 2012, but I always believed in them because my dad did. My dad was very intelligent, knew all the answers on Jeopardy, and he fully believed in UFOs. 2012 is when I had my first encounter, and it was what I would describe as a ball of plasma, a ball of liquid fire. And this thing, I didn't see it first, but my two daughters did. And it was following us from Ignacio, Colorado to Bayfield, Colorado. And so that's about a 14-mile drive, I want to say. Maybe it's 12 to 14. So I stopped at the stop sign just outside of Bayfield and got out to look. And my youngest daughter at the time was like, "Mom, what are you doing? Get back in the car." It's like, "Well, you have been telling me about this. I couldn't look at it before because I'm driving. But, yeah, I want to see what you're talking about." And I looked up and there it was, probably about, I want to say 50 feet. It's probably more like 50 yards, but it looked like it was just up there. And plasma ball. Saw it again in, I believe it was November, could have been December of that same year, 2012. Going down our fence, coming from the east to west at a slow walking pace. Same thing, but larger because there it is, right in front of me, probably like 20 feet away, starting at like 40 or 50, coming up to 20, and then shorter, but yeah, that was epic. I could not get my phone to work to take a picture or a video, so I just called my family over. My two daughters saw the same thing I did, which was a plasma ball with liquid fire flowing through it, and the old man saw a very large glowing bat inside of like a glass ball. But yeah, I want to hear what your guys' stories are, so hit me up. We are paradoxmedia@gmail.com. But I just want to thank you for hanging out with me tonight and listening to these not so great stories of what's going on in our world today. But it was awesome hanging out with you. Thank you to all my friends out there, wherever you may be listening, Beyond the Omniverse tonight. I had a wonderful time. Can't wait to do it again later on this week. We'll see what happens. Hopefully before the weekend, but if not, I'll see you Saturday. Don't forget, we're all in this together. Together we can make the world better and fight tyranny and oppression. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. Nighty night, love and light. Take care of my yous, and please enjoy your week. Stay safe and blessed. I love you.